Okay, this is going to be the next video on trig graphs. I want to build off of what we were doing with sine and cosine. I'm going to start with introducing just some negative problems here. Let's say 2x plus 3 pi. Let's say minus 1. I'm going to introduce shifts too. Okay. All right, so here's what I got. I always want to start with my basic values here. Okay, I want to start with my basic values. So I'm going to have, for cosine would be 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. And then keep this pattern going, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. Okay, all right. Now, what I want to do, nothing changes. I got 2x plus 3y, 3 pi equals 0. Let's subtract 3 pi. That's 2x equals negative 3 pi. Divide by 2. X equals negative 3 halves pi. Okay, so my first value is negative 3 halves pi. Okay, now I want to find the period next. Okay, this would also be the phase shift. Okay, my period, I want to take 2 pi and divide it by the number that's in front of x, which in this case would be that, which would be 1 pi. Okay, all right, so now I want to find the interval. Okay, I want to do that. How do I find the interval? Take my period of 1 pi and divide it by 4, which would be 1 pi over 4. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to do my fraction adds. So I'm going to start with negative 3 over 2, and I'm going to add 1/4. Let's get a common denominator on this. I would multiply by 2 over 2, which is negative 6 over 4, plus 1/4 would be negative 5/4. Okay? So next would be negative 5/4 pi, and add a fourth would be negative 4 over 4, which would give me negative 1 pi. Okay? Then I want to do negative 4 over 4, add a fourth, gives me negative 3/4 pi. And then I do negative 3/4 plus a fourth gives me negative 2/4 pi. Okay, which is basically negative pi over 2. Okay, negative 2/4 plus a fourth is negative 1/4. So negative pi over 4. Then negative 1/4 plus a fourth would be 0. 0 plus a fourth would just be 1/4. So pi over 4. Okay, and then 1/4 plus a fourth gives me 2/4, which would be pi over 2. Okay, so battle of fractions. I'm not going to leave the fractions up. Okay, so those are my angles. Okay, all right, those are the angles. So if you look at that, I have some negative angles. Okay, now that's not overly complicated to deal with as far as the negative angles go. Okay, all right. Now, before we do that, let's talk about what happens with values. Last class we talked about, well, if there was a 4 here, we would multiply by 4. Now, with this extra minus 1, we're going to now subtract 1 as well. So times 4, then minus 1. So 1 times 4 would be 4, minus 1 would be 3. 4 times 0 would be 0, minus 1 would be negative 1. 4 times that would be negative 4, minus 1 would be negative 5. That's going to have the same result there, and that would have the same result there. So this result would be negative 1, that result would be negative 5, that result would be negative 1, and this result would be 3. Okay? All right? All right, so these are the values that I want to use. So I want to do multiplications or order of operations on that. Okay, now, nothing changes. Now, if I got to think a little bit here, I'm going from negative 3 pi over 2 to about pi over 2. So I got to use both sides of the axis, and I'm going to spread this out in all honesty. Well, since I'm going that way, I'm going to go negative 2 pi. All right, and then I'm going to go all the way to pi over 2. Okay, this would be, when I do the negatives, it's the same thing. Negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2. You might want to do a better job than I just did filtering those. Okay, all right, it wasn't very good. Okay. Let me do that again. Okay. So I'm going from -2 pi. Okay, so what I'm going to do is half would be -1 pi. That would be half of that would be -3 over 2 pi. Negative pi over 2. Okay, and then we'll go pi over 2. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so now from -3 pi over 2, I'm at 3. At -5/4 pi. So I got quarters here, so I got to cut these. Okay, so that's going to be -1/4, -3/4, -5/4. All right, I don't need to go past that. Okay, and then this is just 1/4. Okay, all right. So I got -5/4, so I'm going to be at -1. That'll be like here. At negative pi, I'm going to be all the way down at -5, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, I'd be here. All right. At -3/4, I'm going to be at -1. At negative pi over 2, I'm going to be up at 3. At -1/4 pi, I'm at -1. At 0, I'm down at -5. Okay, at pi over 4, I'm at -1. And then at pi over 2, I'm at 3. Okay, and that's my graph for that. Okay, let's do one more, and then I'll turn you a little bit loose to work on some of these other ones. Okay, let's say I've got let's say 3 sine of x plus let's say 3 pi over 4 plus 2. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. All right, so I want to start with my sine values. Okay, I want to start with my sine values. So with sine, the values would start as 0, 1, 0, -1, 0. And keep the pattern going 1, 0, -1, 0. Okay, no problem there. All right, I want to find my starting value. So I set this equal to 0, and I solve. Well, this is pretty easy. I'm just going to subtract. Okay, so it's x equals -3 pi over 4. That's my starting value. Okay. All right. All right. Now, how do I figure out? I need to figure out my period. Period of the function. 2 pi divided by the number that's in front of x. Well, the number in front of x there is 1, so I'm just going to have 2 pi. Need my interval. My interval will be 2 pi divided by 4, which would be pi over 2. Okay. So that's how I'm going to move, is in increments of pi over 2. Okay. So I'm starting at -3/4. Pi over 2 is a half. Okay, get a common denominator. That's -3/4 plus 2/4. That's -1/4. Okay, now I'm off and running. Negative pi over 4. Okay, -1/4 plus a 4th. I'm sorry, plus 2/4. It's going to be 1/4. Okay, so that's going to be pi over 4. 1/4 plus 2/4 is going to be 3/4. That's 3/4 pi. All right, 3/4 plus 2/4 is 5/4. And the reason why I'm adding 2/4 is I'm really adding half. That's the interval. So 5/4 pi. 5/4 plus 2/4 is 7/4. 7/4 plus 2/4 is 9/4. So 9/4 pi. 9/4 plus 2/4 is 11/4. And then 11/4 plus 2/4 is 13/4. Okay? Now, so you have to have a little bit of an idea of about where you're at. Okay? I'm going from a negative about 1 Okay, always go to the next integer. It's probably easier. That's about -1. That's like 3 point something, so I might go to about 4 pi. Or yeah, just beyond 3 is fine. Okay, so let me erase these. All right. Okay, all right. So now, all right, let's talk about what's going to happen with my values. Times 3 plus 2. So 3 times this would be 0, add with 2. 3 times that would be 3 plus 2 would be 5. Same number there. 3 times that would be -3, plus 2 would be -1. This actually stays -1. That's sort of interesting. Okay, and so that would be 2, that would be 5, that would be 2, that would be -1, and that would be 5. Okay, so I don't worry about those anymore. Okay, now, all right, I go from about -1 pi. So majority of the graph would be, some would be negative, but most would be positive. Okay, so all right, I'm going to about 4 pi. So 1 pi, 2, 3, and then I'll put 4 all the way over here. Okay, and I'm going about -1. Okay, divide in half. So that's negative pi over 2, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2. Okay, now I got to cut this in quarters. Got to cut it in quarters. Okay, so it's -1/4, -3/4, 1/4, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and then 13. Okay, that's good. That's all I need. Okay, all right, so at -3/4 pi, I'm up at 2. At negative pi over 4, I'm at 5. At pi over 4, I'm at 2. At -3/4, I'm down at -1. At 5/4, I'm up at 2. At 7/4, I'm at 5. At 9/4, I'm at 2. Okay, 11/4, I'm at -1. And 13/4, I'm back up at 5. So this is what this looks like. Here, down to here, down to here, down to there. Yeah. Oh no, that should be a 2 here. Sorry, that should be a 2. Get that. Hold on. Okay. So that would be some examples there. Okay, what I would like you guys to work on, okay, I want you to try these 2 examples. Okay, let's go 6, all right. Let's see what that last one was, that sign. Yeah, let's go cosine of, say x minus pi, or plus, say 3, say, I did 3 pi over 2. Let's do 3 pi over 2. And the other one I would like you to do is -3 there. Okay, so once you do that problem, and I would like you to do y equals 2. All right, let's do sine of 4x plus 2 pi plus 1. Okay, and in the interest of the video, because these take a long time to do in class, I'm just going to move on to the next thing. Okay, all right. Now, I want to talk about a couple more examples. Okay, I want to talk about a couple more examples. Let's do y equals, let's say 5 cosine of, say 3x minus 1. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. I want to talk about when it's not, there's no parentheses there. Okay. So, start the same way. Okay, I've got values would be 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. Okay, now, someone said, Mr. Evans, do I put 3x minus 1 set equal to 0? No, because the only thing there would be 3x. So I'm going to set that equal to 0. So I would divide by 3, x would be 0. Okay, all right, so there is no phase shift. All right, I still got to figure out the period. Okay, the period is 2 pi divided by the number in front of x, which is 3, which is 2 pi over 3. Okay, my interval, all right, would be 2 pi over 3 divided by 4, which would be 2 pi over 12, which is pi over 6. Okay, all right. So what I want to do is add that 0 plus pi over 6. This is going to be pi over 6. Okay, and now I'm off and running. So I got 1/6 pi basically. 1/6 pi plus a 6. Okay, that would be 2/6 pi, which would be pi over 3. Okay, then 2/6 plus 1/6 would give me 3/6 pi. Okay, which would be pi over 2. Then 3/6 plus 1/6 gives me 4/6, which would give me 2/3. Okay, 4/6 plus 1/6 would give me 5/6 pi. Okay, all right. Then I got 5/6 plus 1/6 gives me 6/6, which gives me 1 pi. And then 6/6 plus 1/6 would give me 7/6 pi. Okay, and then 7/6 plus 1/6 gives me 8/6. So that's going to be 4/3 pi. Okay, all right. Now, all right, question is, all right, what are we going to do with the values? Okay, all right, so we're going to do a couple things. That -1 is now going to come back into play. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 5 and then subtract 1. So that times 5 would be 5, minus 1 would be 4. That times that would be 0, minus 1 would be negative 1. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5, minus 1 would be negative 6. Okay, and now I'm just repeating that. That's that, that's that, that's that, that's that, that's that, and that's that. Okay? Okay, so, all right, I'm going to get rid of the fraction war over here. So, how do we graph? All right, so as you can see, I'm going from 0 to 4/3. So I'm going from like 0 to 2%. I'll make this real big. 2. Okay, so about halfway there would be 1. It would be 0. Halfway would be pi over 2. Halfway would be 3 pi over 2. What the other 1, okay? All right, now, so we say, Mr. Evans, I got no idea what 1/6, 1/3, okay, 1/2, 2/3, 5/6, okay? Now, still break them into quarters, okay? Still break them into quarters. 1/4, 3, 5, 7. Okay, now, 0, that's easy, I'm at 4. Okay, now, pi over 6. Well, what is pi over 6? That's 1/6. So let's think about this from a decimal standpoint. That's like 0.16. So it's going to be somewhere in here. Okay, you don't have to be overly accurate, but just, a little bit of approximation. Okay, 1/3. Well, what's the idea of 1/3? Well, what's 1/3 as a decimal? It's like 0.3. That's a little bit more than a quarter. Okay, you're going to be down at -6. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we'll put that right here. Okay, pi over 2. Well, that's good. That's at -1. 2/3 is like 0.6. That would be somewhere in this area. Okay, it would be up at 4. All right, 5/6, which is more than 2/3, because look, 3/4, 5/6. So it's a little bit more. So it's on just each little part. Okay, Don't get overly picky with that. 1 pi is at -6. Okay, 7/6 is going to be between these two. That's going to be at -1. 7/6 is going to be between these two. 4/3 will be between these two, which will be back up at 4. Okay, and so this is what my graph looks like. Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, all right. That's how you would do a 6. The next thing I want to talk about is the situations when you have this. Okay, let's go take a look at this one. All right. So, start out the same way. Okay, 0, 1, 0, -1, 0. Okay, all right. 1, 0, -1, 0. Okay, now, I do have to set this equal to 0. I would add pi over to the other side. So that's x over 2 equals pi. Now, how do you solve it when it's a fraction? Just cross multiply. So that's going to be x equals 2 pi. Okay, so my starting value here is 2 pi. Okay? All right. Now, what am I going to do with this? Okay, I got to find the period. Okay, what is the period here? Okay, it is 2 pi divided by the number that's in front of x. What's the number in front of x? 1/2. Okay, so that's going to be 4 pi is going to be the period. Okay, all right. And how am I going to find the interval? Take the period, 4 pi, and divide by 4. It's going to be 1 pi. Okay, so this is actually really easy. This isn't even a fraction. 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, all right. All right, now the values. There's a 1 out here, so if you want to think of this as times 1, okay, if you don't see it, plus 4. So 1 times that would be 0, plus 4 would be 4, 1 and 5, 4 again. 1 times that would be -1 plus 4 would be 3. All right, and now we're just repeating the same values. 5, 4, 3, 4. Okay, all right. So that's actually easier than the fraction parts. Okay, all right, no battle of fractions. Now, as far as drawing this out, what I would do, sort of got to think of the end in mind. I got to get all the way up to 10 pi. So I have to make these small. 1 pi, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you just got to adjust your scale a little bit. You got to be a little bit creative. Okay, so at 2 pi, I'm at 4. At 3 pi, I'm at 1. Okay. I'm sorry, 3 pi, I'm at 5. Should have crossed these out. 3 pi, I'm at. That's okay. 3 pi, I'm at 5. Here. 4 pi, I'm at 4. 5 pi, I'm at 3. 6 pi, I'm at 4. 7 pi, I'm at 5. 8 pi, I'm at 4. 9 pi, I'm at 3. And 10 pi, I'm at 4. Graph looks like. Okay? All right? So what I'd like you guys to do, I'm going to give you guys a couple of those to try on your own. Okay? Once again, all right? The cosine, let's do x over 2. Let's do plus pi over 8. Okay. I'd like you guys to do this one. And I'd like you guys to do this one. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause your video and go ahead and work on that. That will conclude this video. This will be the trig 1 for 2. We'll move on next thing to finding characteristics.